And I'm fucking livid that we are stuck in the timeline where Alex Jones is right. Kind of worse than it was.
Oh no! Oh, okay, no.
Why aren't the Amish afraid of COVID? Because they don't have TVs.
As I said, democracy is a system that reinforces authoritarian ideals.
I hope I don't get canceled. Talk to me.
Being a victim of a tragedy doesn't make you an expert in public policy.
Well, I mean, AOC is a drama queen and she's full of shit.
Remember, they lost the Afghan war 10 years ago.
You brought a freaking guillotine.
They said, you don't get to tell us no, we're the state health department, and I said, hell no.
It wasn't making Christianity better, it was making rock worse.
What the fuck do you have on your face, Olivia?
You want to make the world a better place? Have some babies and raise them to not be stupid.
I remember thinking, man, governments are not going to like this shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, activists, shitposters, and people of the internet, thank you for tuning in to another episode of O'Donnell for Liberty. As always, I'm your host, Justin. Tonight, we're doing another RNR review and react live exclusively here on YouTube and next day on Odyssey for our video subscribers. If you want to continue to get our episodic interview series, that's available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. You can check the links in the description below this video. If you enjoy the content, you can join our production team by visiting patreon.com/O'Donnell for Liberty. Again, that's patreon.com/O'Donnell, the number 4, Liberty. If you want to keep in touch between shows, follow me on social media and join our community Discord channel where you can chat with other fans about the show at any time. All these links can be found in the description of the video or podcast you listen to, as well as on o'donnellforliberty.com. Again, check the links in the description of the video you're watching and make sure you check it out today. Now, tonight, we're going to be talking something that's been in the news. Current events. Don't really all get the chance to talk current events outside of LP Inside Baseball and the political sphere today. And I don't know what we're expecting here with the Southwest controversy. I'm sure anybody who's watched the news in the past few days or paid attention to social media has seen the surge in canceled flights by Southwest Airlines. Low fares, but no expectations that you're actually going to get off the ground. And there's been a lot of explanations. There's been a lot going around, a lot of arguments, a lot of debate and discussion about what's caused these cancellations. At first, it was weather, then it was air traffic control, then it was sick outs by pilots, and then there was apologies, and then it was vaccine mandates. Let's just check some of the news today. First, I want to start off with NPR. Okay, great, unbiased source, NPR, National Public Radio. Publish this 3-minute listen. We're going to give it a quick listen. 3 minutes. Southwest Airlines. Widespread cancellations could be a sign of things to come. So kick things off. We're going to just see how this was reported in the news before we react to it.
Southwest Airlines is expected to operate at closer to normal today. This after thousands of flight delays and cancellations over the holiday weekend. Passengers were stranded for days at the airport, and all of this could be a sign of more disruptions ahead. Here's NPR's David Shaper.
First up, a sign of more disruptions ahead. If anybody thinks this is the end of things, if anybody thinks this was a one-time thing, it was a fluke, you're in for a bumpy ride. This was a sign of things to come.
52-year-old Jean Walsh was booked on a Southwest flight from Washington, D.C. to Oakland with a brief layover in Chicago on Saturday afternoon. But she still wasn't home when I reached her late yesterday.
Well, what is it? Is it Monday? I lost track. Is it Tuesday? It's Tuesday. Yeah.
Her Saturday flight was canceled. The flight she rebooked for Sunday was canceled. Same on Monday. And Walsh grew frustrated after spending hours waiting in line at the airport, on hold on the phone, and trying to rebook online to no avail.
And so I just decided if I wanted to get out of DC, I would have to just go my own way. So I just booked a flight on another airline to Denver, where I know people. And now I'm here and I'm waiting to get back to Oakland.
And tens of thousands of other Southwest customers have had similar travel nightmares over the last 5 days.
What we saw, frankly, on display was an alarming amount of incompetence by one of the largest airlines in the United States.
Quick pause. Anybody who's traveled for work, anybody who's worked in politics and traveled a lot, anybody who's worked in corporate business and traveled a lot. Anybody who just likes to travel to visit their family because they live on the other side of the country, other side of the world from you. We live in the most connected time in human history where you're only 12 hours away from your family on the other side of the planet because of the brilliance and amazingness of air travel technology. Anybody who's traveled any significant amount has had a flight canceled, has had a flight delayed. This isn't something nobody is used to if you've traveled any significant amount. I've been stuck in airports for weekends. I've been stuck in bus stations for weekends. The buses aren't even all that more reliable than planes. What's alarming is the sheer volume. Okay? What's alarming is that the sheer volume that you're seeing thousands of flights canceled over a weekend. And that's what's really throwing people off.
The United States.
Travel industry analyst Henry Hardevelt says there were significant weather and air traffic control problems in the Southeast on Friday that caused delays and cancellations all across the industry.
And while other airlines were able to snap back to their normal level of operation fairly quickly, Southwest has been struggling. And on Sunday, they just had a total meltdown.
One reason is that unlike hub and spoke airlines like American, Delta, and United, Southwest flies point to point to point, says DePaul University airline expert Joe Sweeterman.
And when you do that, you don't sort of shuttle back and forth to a hub. It makes the recovery much more complicated because pilots are stuck all over the country and you can't just substitute one flight for another coming in and out of the hub.
But Sweeterman says airlines should plan ahead for such disruptions. And he says Southwest's statements blaming bad weather and the FAA's air traffic control problems don't add up.
Now, I know most people aren't really familiar with air traffic control and how they work and how they operate. I'm not sure if I'm going to be burning a bridge or burning somebody here, but my brother is an air traffic controller. I know, weird. Me, anarchist Justin, who hates the government, bring it all down. My little brother works for the government. He's an air traffic controller. It's a federal job. That's not a Southwest job. It's not a JetBlue job. It's not even an employee of the airports. The Air Traffic Control Commission is a federal agency that oversees air traffic control, and they've been short-staffed forever. Like, this is nothing new to them. I asked my brother because there was a tweet going around with a text message saying it was all the air traffic controllers who walked off the job because of the vaccine. And that's what caused the shortage out of the Jacksonville Center. And I reached out to my brother. I'm like, yo, dude, what's going on with this? And he's like, not a chance. Not a single air traffic controller walked out. They're approving vaccine exemptions for anybody who asks for it. But they are short-staffed. He said, like, their normal crew is about 15 people in his air traffic control station for any given shift. And for going on a year, they've been working with 3 people to staff 15 spots because the air traffic control job is just a really, really difficult and high-stress job, and they struggle to recruit for it.
Just don't add up.
I've been watching aviation for a long time, and this one's a bit of an enigma because there is not a smoking gun that's completely credible. This is dragging out, and it suggests that maybe the labor climate at Southwest and the manpower models they're using for staffing are out of kilter.
Southwest Pilots Union blames the weekend meltdown on the airline's poor planning and what it calls an operation so brittle it's subject to massive failures under the slightest pressure. The union denies that some pilots called out sick in protest of Southwest's vaccine mandate, but warns that mass terminations of unvaccinated pilots, as the airline is threatened, could lead to much more severe flight cancellations over the busy holiday season. David Shaper, NPR News.
That's really the big takeaway there from that. Even NPR is admitting that there's warning that mass terminations of the unvaccinated are going to have a major impact on one of the largest airlines in this country's ability to serve their market function and serve their market demand. Mass terminations for vaccine noncompliance. And that's absolutely wild because that shouldn't happen in a truly free market. In a truly free market, a company would realize its business continuity issues, that it had failed for business continuity planning, it failed in recruiting, it failed in employee relations, and wouldn't be able to enforce a mandate because a mass termination of your employees usually means you go out of business or you suffer and can't compete against your competition in a free and fair and open marketplace. But when Southwest came out and tried to explain themselves, Southwest didn't explain themselves as, or our pilots don't want to get vaccinated, or our staff doesn't want to get vaccinated, or we failed to route the planes properly and we had a routing error or a computer glitch or human error that caused all of this. We're sorry. Southwest said, weather and air traffic control. Weather and air traffic control, which is wild. Wild. Because it didn't affect any other airline. Just Southwest. But weather and air traffic control, things that are universal issues across this sector. Every airline has to deal with air traffic control. Every airline has to deal with weather. How did these two things ground Southwest, disrupt Southwest business model, and ruin Southwest's weekend on a holiday weekend? One of the busier travel weekends in the country, but not affect JetBlue or United or American or Alaskan Airlines or anybody else. But they do say they've struggled with insufficient staffing over the summer to meet a packed schedule. Staffing has been an issue across every sector, not just the airlines. Restaurants, hotels, service industry, manufacturing, delivery, warehousing, logistics. Nobody, everyone's hiring. Everyone is desperate for employees, and employees don't want to work. Why? Because just had 18 months of government money. 18 months of government money telling everyone to sit on their asses and not to work is setting us up for a future of government cheese, because the economy is in shambles as people can't get staffing to keep their businesses afloat. And when those businesses fail and the government runs out of money to pay off those businesses to keep them afloat, who knows what happens next? But this article, Southwest Airlines apologized for canceling more than 2,000 flights since Saturday. This article was published on Tuesday. 2,000 flights since Saturday, saying the airline's operations are starting to stabilize after disrupting travel for tens of thousands of customers. I know it's been a really rough weekend, and obviously I feel for our customers and our people that are trying their best to serve our customers, but when an airline gets behind, it's hard to catch up. Southwest Airlines CEO Gary Kelly told CNBC's Squawk on the Street in an interview Tuesday. Kelly said he wasn't trying to make any excuses for the disruptions. Southwest canceled 87 flights, or 2% of its schedule on Tuesday, according to the flight tracking site FlightAware. 2% doesn't seem that high. I'm somebody who's flown Spirit before, and I've had 3 flights canceled in one weekend on an airline that wasn't suffering. That was just their business model, was to cancel flights that were undersold. The Dallas-based airline since Saturday has canceled close to 2,400 flights. 2,400 flights. If 87 flights were 2% of a daily run, if 87 flights were 2% of its daily schedule, 2,400 flights over 4 days is a majority. It's an asinine amount of their flights being canceled. An asinine of their business. Asinine percentage of their business not functioning. The airline said bad weather and air traffic control issues in Florida kicked off problems, which snowballed due to its own staffing shortfall, particularly a lack of backup pilots and flight attendants to step in when things go wrong. Other airlines had relatively minor cancellations. Okay, taking a little bit of responsibility here. Business continuity is a big thing. Staffing is a big thing. I'm not sure there was many pilots laid off during the pandemic. I'm not sure many pilots were on the government payroll this year to not work. They make a lot more than the government was handing out in unemployment and fund money and dicking around. I'm sure most pilots didn't even get a stimulus check because they make too much money. But not being able to staff, you have to ask why. You're one of the largest airlines in the world, certainly one of the largest in the United States. How can you fail to have enough pilots on staff? Kelly said each of the airports it serves in Florida was affected by air traffic control delays, including a 7-hour ground stop at Orlando. I actually don't know anything about that. That's something I will follow up with my brother. I'm going to ask my brother about 7-hour ground stop in Orlando. See if that's true. See if they shut down Orlando International Airport for 7 hours. I feel like that would have been the headline here if Orlando International Airport was shut down for 7 hours. Like, that is a major hub for, like, most of the flights to South America, the Caribbean, Europe go out of there. Like, anytime I've left the country, it's been a pit stop in Orlando International Airport to bounce out. I feel like a ground stop there would have been even bigger news than Southwest fucking up. Orlando flights were delayed an average of 45 minutes on Friday. Being delayed an average of 45 minutes is nothing. Disruptions peaked at more than 1,100 cancellations on Sunday. Okay, I'm saying this is nothing from a traveler and customer perspective. I'm not expecting my flight to take off on time ever. I can't remember the last time I boarded a flight on time. I can't remember the last time I boarded a flight that it wasn't at least 30 minutes late boarding. Disruptions peaked at more than 1,100 cancellations on Sunday, about 30% of Southwest flight that day. So 30% of their business, 30% of the businesses of one of the largest airlines in the country, a publicly traded company, were shot down in one day. The most scheduled flights in a day since April 2020. Southwest shares were up 1.3% in early afternoon trading after losing more than 4% Monday. So, 4%, again, that might not seem like a lot because I'm used to dealing with crypto. I'm used to dealing with Bitcoin. A 7% swing on a day is good. It's a bad day. I'm used to 8, 9, 10% across crypto platforms in daily swings. 4% in the regular stock market on a publicly traded company, a company like Southwest, an established company, that is a major hit. Case Murray, president of Southwest Airlines Pilots Association, the union man himself, which represents the carrier's more than 9,000 pilots. More than 9,000 pilots, but they couldn't get people on staff. Told CNBC that the airline's poor planning was to blame for the issues. The airline has already scaled back its fall schedule due to disruptions throughout the summer following complaints from exhausted crew. Disruptions during the summer. The crew is exhausted because they weren't fucking working. That's an issue for another time. We're not going to dive into that. Union man's going to do what he's going to do. The union's sticking up for the employees, though, and I applaud that. Southwest last week said it would enforce Biden administration policy that employees or federal contractors, which include major airlines like Southwest, American, and others, must be vaccinated against COVID-19. Though he told CNBC he doesn't think companies should mandate vaccines. We're going to jump here because that's where we're at right now. That's the crux of the issue here. There's all this denial about pilot sickouts, pilot walkouts, who's doing what, what's causing this shortage. It comes down to Southwest said last week it would enforce Biden administration policy that employees or federal contractors, which includes major airlines, must be vaccinated against COVID-19. Must be vaccinated against COVID-19. Federal government said this private industry must be vaccinated against COVID-19. Southwest CEO says he never wanted a COVID vaccine mandate, but Biden forced his hand. Benito Mussolini defines fascism as the merger of private business and the state. The merger of private business and the state. And when the state makes dictate to private business, we begin that merger. We're in a fascist country. For 4 years, the left cried, screamed, demanded the ouster of Donald Trump, freaked out about Donald Trump because he was a fascist. But Joe Biden's doing actual fascist bullshit. I've never been in favor of corporations imposing any kind of mandate. I'm not in favor of that. Southwest Airlines CEO Gary Kelly told CNBC on Tuesday. However, Kelly said the Dallas-based carrier is complying with federal rules put in place by the Biden administration. They are complying with federal rules put in place by the Biden administration. The objective here, obviously, is to improve health and safety, not for people to lose jobs. Your objective is to improve health and safety. Then don't fire people for making personal private health decisions. I've never been in favor of corporations imposing that kind of mandate. I'm not in favor of that. But executive orders from President Biden mandates that all federal employees and then all federal contractors, which covers all the major airlines, have to have a vaccine mandate in place by December 8th. So we're working on that. Here's the crux. So Southwest had this major shortage of staff this weekend. Unexpectedly, out of the blue. They couldn't figure out what happened. Pilots weren't answering the call. Pilots wouldn't come to work. 9,000 pilots, but they couldn't get anyone into an airport to do their job. Maybe it's because last week Southwest said that 56,000 employees needed to be vaccinated against COVID by December 8th in order to keep working for the airline under federal mandates. They did it. They gave a mandate. Southwest announcement came a few days after other carriers, including American Airlines, Alaska Airlines, JetBlue Airways, informed employees with the need to adhere to federal vaccine rules. In August, before Biden administration action, United Airlines and Hawaii Airlines instituted COVID vaccine requirements for their staff. United Airlines said earlier this month that more than 96% of its 67,000 U.S. employees have shared proof of vaccination after its late September deadline. We just really got things back to normal in the past couple months. And normal's a relative term. Normal's still a really relative term. I think it's really just been in the past few months where people have been really open to traveling. People have been open to going up and getting out of their cage and getting out of their ruts and doing things. And just out of the blue, to hear from your employer. And I'll tell you what, I'm someone who's heard from an employer. Don't get vaccinated, lose your job. I'm looking for another employer. Stand on principle. Getting vaccinated is a personal health and medical decision. It's not right for everybody. And I'm not going to sit here and spout vaccine conspiracy theories about fucking microchips or stupid bullshit. People make stuff up and have no understanding of the science or the medicine involved. I'm just saying it's a personal decision. Nobody should be forced to do anything. Nobody should be forced to take an experimental vaccine. Nobody should be forced to take a non-experimental vaccine. It's a personal decision. And whether or not a private company wants to have a mandate, so United Airlines and Hawaii Airlines, they made this rule for their private company on their own. They announced they were going to require it well before the federal government announced they were going to require it. And they got compliance. A lot of people quit. A lot of people went to go work for companies like Spirit and Southwest. I'm going to have somebody on to talk about that at some point. But the Spirit Airlines is saying, fuck this. No, you're hired. But out of the blue, Southwest, who up until this point said, no, we're not going to do it. The CEO doesn't believe in mandates. People should keep their jobs. And then say, get the shot or you're fired. And get surprised when people don't want to fucking pick up the call to do some overtime and extra work. They started to offer incentives such as extra pay. Extra pay. No, the stick is you lose your fucking job. You lose the ability to feed your family. Extra pay. Delta is charging their employees to not be vaccinated. Okay, might as well lose your fucking job. $200 a week is a lot of money for a lot of people. $200 a month. $200 a month is a lot of money for a lot of people. I know a lot of people watching this like, oh, it's just $200 a month. I'd pay $200 a month to not be vaccinated. I wouldn't. I'd get another goddamn job. $200 a month. Like, I've been poor. I remember when $200 was like the difference between whether or not I ate in a given week, like, or if I went a few days without food. Like, I remember months with $200 determined whether or not I would be homeless or not. Like $200 is a lot of money. And these people, you're right, they're mostly not minimum wage employees. But they're baggage handlers, they're desk clerks, they're customer service people, they're administrative staff making 15, 16, 17 bucks an hour, but in major cities like Los Angeles, New York, $200 is a lot of money. But yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the least bit that the CEO, who's been on the record publicly saying he doesn't believe private companies should enforce mandates against their employees, had his entire business come to a screeching halt when he forced a mandate on his employees. So why'd he do it? That's right. Uncle Joe did it. Uncle Joe Biden. Joe Biden forced this on Southwest Airlines. Joe Biden forced this on Southwest Airlines. A fascist dictate from a tyrannical presidential cabinet forced this on a private employer, and it forced one of the largest airline carriers in this country to come to a screeching halt in their business. It shut them down almost overnight. Absolutely bullshit. But what are you going to do? When the federal government says, what are you going to do? I know what you're going to do. You're going to do what Texas did. Texas Governor Greg Abbott orders a ban on all COVID-19 vaccine mandates in the state. Wow. Who would have thought you could use government to fight government, right? But how's this better? How is this any better? You're fighting a fascist dictate with a fascist dictate. You're fighting government forcing private businesses to make business decisions and employment decisions with the dictate of law by passing a law and forcing businesses to make hiring decisions and business decisions against their will. This is not better. This is not better. This is not the way. You nullify, but you don't pass another ban. You don't do what Texas did. That is not a libertarian approach. That's not a free market approach. This is more meddling in private business. This isn't how you do it. This isn't how you win. And this isn't how you promote freedom. Greg Abbott in Texas is not a libertarian, ladies and gentlemen. He is a Republican. He's never claimed to be a libertarian. He's never claimed to be anything other than a Republican. He's not even a really good one at that. It's a bait and hook. A lot of libertarians have held Texas and Florida up as these beacons and standards of liberty because of their response to COVID-19, their response to government lockdowns, their responses to pandemics. But they are they're two states that are just as equally tyrannical as New York or California, just in the other direction. Texas is banning private employers from making decisions about their hiring practice and their staffing practices. Texas is banning private employers from exercising their right to voluntary association. That is not a freedom approach. Florida. Greg Abbott in Florida. Texas outright prohibits it. Florida is using the state to fine private businesses that ask for vaccine proof. Again, Benito Mussolini said fascism is the merger of government, state, and private business. But we have reached a point where Florida and Texas, under the guise of liberty, under the pretense of protecting freedoms, have decided to strip away the very basic freedoms of self-determination and voluntary association from private business. You can no longer decide who you hire. You can no longer decide what your risk tolerance as a business owner is. You can no longer make personal medical decisions for you and your family without the government being involved one way or another. The federal government, New York, California, Massachusetts, the liberal states, they want to force you to be vaccinated. But Florida and Texas, they want to force you to associate and hire and work with the unvaccinated. No, these should be personal choices. These should be personal fucking choices. And the worst part of it is that the libertarians and the conservatives that are cheering for DeSantis and Abbott for what they're doing in Florida and Texas are the same libertarians and conservatives who attacked Gary Johnson for saying bake the damn cake. But this is bake the cake, but only worse. This isn't just bake the damn cake. This is surrender your business. This is surrender your business to the whim of the state. And I'm not fucking for it. And it's one of the reasons I'm glad I'm in New Hampshire, because, well, Chris Sununu, governor of New Hampshire, he's not the most freedom-oriented guy. Tried and true party line establishment Republican. He understands the difference between a constitutional conservative and a populist, and I can respect and appreciate that. But he sure as shit not a federalist. He sure as shit doesn't believe in state sovereignty. And he sure as shit loves federal money. Chris Sununu tried to force through a measure to accept federal money to fund a COVID mandate here in New Hampshire, under the guise of it be paying for the children. $27 million from the federal government to pay for a program to get children vaccinated. That's what Chris Sununu wanted. That's what he really wanted. You know what? Libertarians, stop that shit. Libertarians, stop that shit. Free State Project participants, libertarians, people showed up to executive council meetings in New Hampshire, and they stopped that shit. Chris Sununu did not get his way. $27 million in federal funding rejected, 4-1 vote by the executive council. And Chris Sununu was big mad. And you know, they tried, but libertarians got their way. Turns out if you show up and you protest and you make sure that the tyrants know that you're watching them, that the tyrants know you know where they live, you know where they're meeting, they have home addresses, it's a matter of public record, but you can't change their minds. You need to be in the room. Libertarians in the room. Stop this state overreach in New Hampshire. They stopped medical tyranny from becoming a thing in New Hampshire. And I'm damn proud to be a libertarian in New Hampshire. I wasn't there myself. It was early morning Wednesday. I couldn't make it to Concord. I was busy working. But I'm damn proud that these people are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact in getting this vote stopped. But Chris Sununu was upset because New Hampshire is the only state to turn down federal money. New Hampshire is the only state that has turned down the federal money. It had too many conditions on it. But at the same time, the executive counselors who felt swayed by these libertarian protests, the executive counselors who've changed their minds over the past few weeks and voted against taking this federal money in order to comply with a vaccine mandate here in New Hampshire, they wanted to go the route of Texas or Florida. An executive counselor actually proposed a New Hampshire resolution similar to Texas and Florida to prohibit private companies from exercising their own hiring practices. And that's fucking mind-blowing to me. But Chris Sununu, for all of his flaws, the statist, this Republican, this populist centrist governor who just wants to be liked and get reelected and get elected to the Senate next year. You know, he did something good.
So I appreciate you have reservations, but they're based on fantasy.
Well, they're not fantasy, Governor, because people are being laid off left and right.
That's not the government's doing.
Well, the government might want to make a statement to the private sector and say whether they can do it or not do it, but simply say, hey, you know.
We just did. We just had a whole discussion on it, sir. I've been very clear. I'm very concerned about every one of our healthcare workers that might get laid off. It would be a restriction on an employee if I told Fred's Flower Shop that he had to keep all 4 of his employees hired, regardless of whether they're vaccinated or not. That is his flower shop. That is his right to manage his business. That is his individual liberty. And now you want the government to infringe on that individual liberty. We won't do it.
It's the individual liberty of this state to say goodbye to its employees. I've had 16 just lay off the North.
We don't have state employees being laid off. The hospital employees are not our employees. And if they want to take that up with the hospitals, they have every right to do so. Of course
they
not.
are our employees in the sense that they live and work here in the state.
As does every business. So are we going to mandate that for every business?
You're trying to say private sector versus public sector. The public sector shouldn't tell the private sector what to do. I totally agree with that.
No, you don't. You're saying the opposite. You're telling me that I need to tell a private hospital how to run their business. Right? You're telling me you can't fire Sarah. You have to keep her hired.
I'm telling you that essential services of the state are going away because people are being laid off.
And you think the answer is government, and I don't. I think the private sector has the individual right to manage themselves. That is capitalism. That is America. So not big government telling everybody what to do. You can't say the Biden administration is forcing a mandate here and we have to stop it, but the state government should institute a mandate here and force it to stop the way we want it. You cannot have it. Those are two sides of the same coin. As soon as you open Pandora's box for the government telling a business who they can hire and fire, you can imagine what will happen when someone else isn't sitting here, or the next governor, or the next governor, or the next governor. That Pandora's box can never be closed. And now government is telling businesses how to run their business. That isn't even socialism. That's actually pure communism.
I don't know how I feel about it. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how I feel about it. On one hand, it is pure tyranny. We should not have government mandates in either direction. I can't support a government mandate in either direction. But maybe the state should do something. Not the federal government, not the state incarnate or the royal state, but the state of New Hampshire. Maybe we should do something. Maybe that something should just be telling private businesses we won't comply and forcing them to comply with the mandate. We will not allow state resources to force a private business to comply with a federal mandate. We will not allow federal law enforcement in the state of New Hampshire to enforce a mandate against private business. But we can't go mandating the other way. Chris Sununu was right. When you open the Pandora's box of a government telling people who they're allowed to associate with, who they're allowed to hire, and how they're allowed to run their business, there is no going back. You cannot go back. And we don't have rules for who's in place right now. We have rules for who might be in place in the future because, well, Chris Sununu might be one of the less tyrannical governors out there. We don't know who's going to replace him. We don't know who the next governor is going to be. And it might be somebody who's willing to use the precedent of a state mandate to do harm. But at the same time, Southwest didn't want to have a mandate. Southwest's business is collapsing. Southwest Airlines may not survive this year as a business. And they didn't want to have a mandate, but the mandate's going to be what kills them. Because they're being forced to comply by the federal government. So maybe it is time to signal something. Maybe it's time for mass noncompliance to become a true movement. Maybe it's time for people and businesses to stand up and say no to these mandates. I don't care if you're vaccinated or not. I don't care if you don't want to associate with me because I'm unvaccinated. That's your right to do it. As long as it's your decision. And ultimately, that's what it comes down to, is that Southwest's business is falling apart. Southwest's business is collapsing. And they're looking at the mass termination of employees for not complying with a mandate that they did not want to enforce in the first place. And it's a sad state of the world we live in. It's a sad reality of what the federal government is doing. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do about it. All I know is that something has to be done. But it shouldn't be the government that does it. It should be me. It should be you. It should be us. I'm damn proud to see libertarians and free staters in New Hampshire taking that lead. If it wasn't so damn early in the morning and I didn't have to work, I'd have been there with them. But until next time, you do your damn best to stay free. Thanks again for tuning in and joining us. Make sure you hit that like button, comment below to let us know your thoughts. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button on YouTube and turn on notifications to get alerted every time we go live. If you enjoyed this content, you can join our production team on Patreon by following the link in the description. And don't forget to follow on social media and join our community Discord channel by following the links in the description as well. The best part of all of this is the community that we're building and growing. So go ahead and join us. And thanks once again to our awesome sponsors and patrons for making all of this possible. And if you can't catch the show live, you can always catch it the next day on YouTube, Odyssey, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, and wherever else you listen to your favorite podcasts. So until next time, everybody, be free.